Hey everyone, this is me, the Undead Viking, and this is Dark Domains. This is the game I'm going to be talking about today. Dark Domains is a worker placement game, I guess I should say a minion placement game, where the players are the bad people. The idea is that there is this new land, and the king wants it to be settled. It wants it to be, revitalized and retaken and placed within the kingdom. I think I've run a few D&D campaigns under this idea in my past, but the players themselves have like a part of this dark domain, but they aren't, and they're ostensibly they want to pretend they're working for the king and they want to do exactly what they're saying, but in actuality they want to impress the evil necromancer that actually wants to corrupt and destroy this world. And what they're going to end up doing is they're going to go ahead and build up that world, but then they're going to corrupt it, and hopefully you draw the eye of the necromancer and impress the evil spellcaster, and so then they become like his chief minion or chief like strategist or whatever, maybe they're warlord or something. But the big thing is that you're playing as the bad guy, and but not like hugely bad like off the bat. I mean, like, you're actually going to be trying to cultivate the land a little bit before you actually turn it and spin it into the evil place that you want it to be in the end. The game is, like I said, it is a worker placement type game, and there's going to be several different spots that you're going to activate, lots of different resources that you're going to have to collect, and a lot of things that you're going to have to pay attention to and you're going to have to plan in order to win. But let me show you how the game is played, and then we'll come back here and I'll give you my final thoughts. Alright, so this here is the main game board for Dark Domains, and this here is the player board that each person is going to get. There are all these different locations on the player board, and you're going to be placing buildings in those spots. Then you're going to be corrupting those buildings, and also putting monsters in them and what have you, in the attempt to become like the most evil, so you can catch the eye of the necromancer. Each player to begin the game will have 4 of their workers. There is a 5th worker. You can get access to that on certain turns. I'll talk about that in just a little bit when I show you the different locations you could be placing your workers, or minions I should say, out on the board. You're going to start with you're going to start with 8 coins, and you're going to start with 3 magic spell cards, and I'll talk about spells in just a little bit, and also a couple of elements like these little tokens represent. So like this would be an earth element and that would be a water element. Alright. This big skull here just denotes that I am the first player, and this is a game where the first player, the timing of the turns will matter a great deal, and so making sure that and I like games like that. I like where going first, or just like the timing of the different actions the players take and what happens before this, that, and the other thing. When it matters, it adds that extra layer to the game. It's something that I really enjoy. Alright, so what else you're looking at here is you're looking at a bunch of different decks of cards. Up there at the top of the board you can see those yellow cards. Those are the adventurers that are currently in the 2 inns. The first 4 over there are in the Green Unicorn Inn, and the 4 over here are in the Yellow Swan Tavern. These are like that group of 4 and that group of 4 are going to be rampaging, I guess, well, actually doing the good thing, right, and trying to take you and the other players down because you are this evil influence. Just think of it as this, like, you can kind of see that little red mark, or that red the red square in the middle there. The 4 over there are one side, 4 on there is that side. And the furthest most left of those 4 is considered to be the leader of that group, and they will determine what they're going to attack and who they're going to go after. Just something to keep about, and that's also one of those things about the game that I'll probably talk a lot about in my final thoughts, is that this game has a lot of planning. It has a lot of situations where you're going to be like, okay, I really need to be able to do this, that, and the other thing because this is probably going to happen on this turn. Alright, so this might be a little tough to see But on this game board, there's all these little spots where people are going to be placing their different minions. And yes, there are spots that are like, if you're the person who gets there first, you're going to be able to use that spot and you're going to cover it up. But there are a lot of different spots to place your minions. So, and there's even ways to kick other people's minions off. So, I didn't find myself, really worried about like not being able to get my guy into a certain spot most of the time. But regardless, the way this works is there is actually, you can kind of see there's this path. And when after all the workers are placed or minions are placed on the board, you will follow the path that's on the board, and that's numbered as well. 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth, and you will activate those locations, and the people that have their minions on those locations will get to do those different actions in turn. So it isn't a situation where you're placing your minion and then you immediately get to take the action. You have to wait until all the minions are placed, and you'll go from there. Alright, so, but the first thing, before anything else happens, is you're going to do what's called the fortune phase. Now, before the game begins, you're going to have this fortune deck. And there are, and I'm just going to show you, there are 3 different types of cards. And basically there is that symbol on them, there is that symbol on them, and there's that symbol on them. And the big thing is that you get plenty of these cards. You get more than just the ones that are going to be that deck. And this is going to be the timing mechanism that's going to determine how long the game lasts. And the reason for that is that the moment that you get to this card, the death card, which is going to be placed in the last 5 cards, that signifies that it's the last turn of the game. So it could happen a little earlier, it could happen a little later. So what happens is you take the 2 top cards from this deck. I'll move my spell cards out of the way here. And what you're going to do is you're going to place them here and here. And these are going to be the fortune cards for this particular round of the game. And you have here is the 2 of Pentacles and the 8 of Swords. So, if you can see here, if it's paired with, and like then we'd have a certain thing. But we don't have a pairing in this situation. So, you don't use the top portion. You'll notice that there is a top and a bottom. You're not going to use the top part, you're going to use the bottom part. So it's like, if paired with a different suit, each player may pay 1 coin for each minion they wish to use this turn. Pay when it would have been resolved. Any minion not paid for is removed for no effect. So, it's going to cost people money if they want to use your minions. In turn order, players may immediately purchase 3 workers for 1 coin, or 6 workers for 2 coins. So you're just going to have certain things like that are going to happen. And let's just look at, like, if they had paired. So it's like, no player may use the Assassin's Guild this turn during the minion phase. Place a not available token on that guild space. Then here it is, both henchmen at the Wayward Dragon Inn, along with the henchman discards, are immediately returned to the henchman deck and shuffled. Fill the inn from the far lands. Do not refill the far lands. So that affects the henchman spaces, like the spaces that I'll talk about here in a little bit. But you're going to place those down, and those are going to be like the rules that break the rules for this particular turn. Alright, so then you're just going to start placing your minions down in the different spots. And I'm not going to go through the process of doing every person's turn and placing these minions in each and every spot. The first player places one, the next person plays one, and so on and so forth. And you'll just go through until everybody has placed all the minions that they have. And then you will go through and and there is a turn marker I should mention. There's like the fortune phase and like preparation phase and so forth. It just goes down this little track, but I'm, once again, not going to walk through every single step. But it is nice that they have a little palm there and everybody can see exactly what you're going to be doing and when it's going to happen. Alright, so why don't we just talk about the different spots and what they do. And there's a lot of them, so I'm going to kind of go through them kind of quickly. But the first thing is that you don't always have to place the workers on the board. Now, so if you have one of these buildings here, and I might as well talk about buildings really quickly. Buildings are, they have a certain level of defense that's over here. It also tells you what this gains you. It'll gain you 2 coins during production. It tells you what you need to produce it. In this case, you can see it has, some wood and some iron, and also needs a couple workers there. So you're going to have to, once you can take these and place those like so, and you have them, but then you have to pay the resources to build them, and then you place them onto your domain. Now the big thing is that once these are on your domain, you can place a worker on them, and when you do that, you corrupt them and you turn them evil. So your village will become a ghost town. And then the ghost town will, like as you can see, it'll create a worker and also 2 skulls. And the skulls are the big thing. The skulls are your the evilness. The person who has the most skulls at the end of the game will like have drawn the eye of the necromancer, and you've been his most loyal subject, and you're going to win the game in that case. So that is one of the things that you could possibly use your minions for, is to corrupt the spots on your town. All right, but let's just go through the spots here. So this is a seer. If you place a worker, or a minion, I should say. God, I keep screwing that up. If you place a minion there, you get to look at the top 3 cards of the fortune deck. Look at them. You don't have to share them. You can't show them to anybody, but you can tell people what they are if you want to. It's up to you. And then you get to like place the 3 back onto the deck in any order you wish. So that's something actually, like if people feel like they're not winning, they can use the seer to like look and see if the death card's coming up, and they can push it further back. Or if you think you're winning, you don't want to win, you can like kind of force the end of the game. Kind of a cool thing going on. If you place a worker in the business district, you just get 2 coins. Pretty straightforward, but a lot of times like you're going to need those coins to do certain other things later on in the turn. Remember, this is all a timed situation. Moving to the from the business district, we'll go to the Temple of the Black Cult. If you go to the Temple of the Black Cult, the minions action, you get to take 2 skulls from the stock. Just once again, you can get more evilness, and that's always a good thing because those are basically your victory points. But here's the thing: what you're going to probably be needing that money and those skulls for. This is the Assassin's Guild. You have 2 choices when you go to the Assassin's Guild. You can either have the assassin. Well, I mean, technically it's the assassin and then the street thug. They both do the same thing. The assassin, if you pay him 12 coins, or you can replace 2 coins with 1 skull. So, I mean, basically you're really super evil and you're like using up your evilness, I guess. You can reduce the cost. So you could pay, 5 skulls and 2 coins, if you wanted to, because that would equal a total of 12. Or you can pay the street thug 2 coins to do it. Now, the big thing is the street thug, you got to roll a 6-sided die, and you got to roll 1 or a 2 for him to be successful. But the cool thing about the assassin is that the world is your oyster. You can have him target an adventurer. So if you know an adventurer is going to be most likely going to be attacking your domain, and they're super powerful, you can target them and remove them and put them back in the game box. They're gone. They don't get put in the discard pile. You can target a henchman that is controlled, either that is just available on the board, or that somebody has, and then you can kill them off. Or you can target a minion for a spot that hasn't been resolved yet. So in a weird way, you could target a minion that actually was going to be paying the street thug, since that's after the assassin, to prevent somebody from using the street thug to possibly kill something of yours, or something on the board that you want. But you can kill something later on, and then that minion is removed, and then the player gets to take that minion and place it in another spot that is still available. But you can't go back to the same spot. The only difference is that is the Builders Guild, which you notice has this larger space, and that means any number of people can be using that spot. Alright, so that is those 2 spots. Now the Architects Guild is just, you see there's these places right here, and you can see there's all of these different possible buildings. When your minion's there, you just take that building and place it next to your domain to be built later, as long as you have the resources to do that. The Wayward Dragon Inn over here has 2 henchmen that are face up. You might notice there's 2 henchmen over here in the far lands that are face down. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. These people, the henchmen, do lots of different things. I'll talk about them in more detail later. But like here's like an importer during the production phase, this guy just is going to earn you 3 coins. That's just what he does, So it's just and there's no limit to those. I mean, you can have a bunch of them, and they're going to do certain things. Some of them will bring like mercenaries along with them. Some of them will have different powers they can enact for you. always a good idea if you can get henchmen. It's just a good idea to have them. And there you can see there's 2 spots, so you just claim the one you want. Alright, so with the Builders Guild, what you're going to do is that this is where you can spend coins to purchase resources. Resources that you're likely going to be using to build these buildings that you've claimed. So you can buy a piece of metal for 2 coins, you can buy a stone for a coin, you can buy 2 wood for a coin, or you can hire 2 workers for a coin. And like I said, everybody there can do that, and each person that has one there you'll just change out the money in order to do so. The Tower of the Elements has 4 different spots. If you go there, you're going to get 2 of that element. So if you went here, you get 2 earth, 2 fire, 2 air, and 2 water. So you just get to claim those elements. Elements are used for a lot of different things, mostly used in spells. Speaking of spells, you move over to the Library of the Shattered Council. The wizards will allow you to go ahead and claim 3 spells. Spells come in 4 different types. There's like protection, or defense, attack, production. I'm sorry. You can show some to you. So it's like the spells I have. This is like a production one, where for each element spent to cast, you receive 4 coins. You can spend up to 3 down there on the bottom. Here, this one is a banish. Remove any monster from the game. And these are the different resources. You have to use a fire, an air, and a skull to be able to cast that particular spell. This charm has select an opponent minion. After that minion performs its task, you may do the same task this turn without a minion. So that's notice how I drew these spells before, and that's a really good ability. And so that's why I purposely, actually I grabbed the wrong one. What I should have grabbed was this. So if I had grabbed a earth and an air, I'd have those and I'd be able to cast that spell. And spells have their own timing, and as far as when they're going to be used, for attacks and things like that, or during production. And the spell will actually have an icon on it that will tell you, when these particular spells should be cast. So it's pretty straightforward once you learn the iconography, and also it just makes sense as well. All right, so now we have. After we get there, there's 1 spot available for the Green Unicorn Tavern and 1 spot available for the Yellow Swan Tavern. When a minion is placed on either of those, you can replace any member of the adventure party connected with that tavern with the exception of the leader. So you can't pick the one that's furthest to the left. The only way you can get rid of them before is if you assassinate them. And so you do replace it, though, with another one from the deck. They still are going to have 4 adventuring. So I guess you're paying that one off and to leave, or threatening them to leave, and then they get replaced with somebody else. If you go to the docks, you get to go ahead and there's a mercenary there that you can place, and you can place it onto your board to help protect you. It's just like a person that you get to have for 1 turn that will just protect your domain if you think you're going to be attacked. The Farlands has 2 spots, and they have these 2 minions that you can't see. If you go there and put one down, you're just gonna run. You're gonna hope you get a good one. So here you get this guy. You see, this is Karkofen. Pay 4 coin and 1 evil to assassinate 1 adventurer or henchman, and then discard after use. So he's a pretty powerful guy, and you just get him sight unseen. And you can take a gamble if you want to try to get a hold of that. Now this is the one I really like. This is the Nickmark. Basically, this is the realm of the monsters. So if you want to buy a monster, you end up, you're going to go ahead and look at that. When you place that in the action space, you get to pay the required tokens for whatever monster you want, and you can claim it. So you're going to go ahead and, let's say you want the Lich. You'd have he has an 11, so if he's going to add that to defend. So if you had this village here, you could place the Lich in the village to protect it, and he would add 11 to the defense of it. Plus he he costs 5 coins to hire, and he generates 2 evil skulls every turn. Now, so here I'll show you this guy. So here's the water elemental, and the water elemental, like he will go ahead and like he actually not generate evil, but he generates water each turn, and he costs 6 coins. But that's like a free water element that you're just going to, it's going to create for you, which is never a bad deal, right? So, because you're going to be using those to cast spells. All right, so then moving on from the Nigmark, and these do not refill. You refill them after, during, like, and all these locations, when you like, with the exception of like the adventurers, when you kick one out and you bring one back, like most of these places, you don't refill them until after all the turns are done, and then you like replenish everything. All right, so you have the Harrow's Town Council. The Harrow's Town Council, if you place one there, you get to take the first player marker, and also take 2 coins from the stock. And the first player marker changes immediately at that time. It isn't one of those things where it's the next turn it does. That could come into play with some of the different actions that happen after we get through this phase. And then we have the Royal Court. And if you place one on the Royal Court, which is right over here, you get an extra minion on the next turn, and you get 2 coins from the stock. And that would, you get this, you get an extra minion that you'd be able to use. And next turn you'd have 5 minions, but just for that turn. You don't get to continue having 5. You'd have to continue using the Royal Court in order to have that 5th minion. All right, so after all those are resolved, you'll go through the Foreman phase. And during this phase, the players build any of the tiles that they have. And you can hold on to these tiles for the whole game. You never build them. They just sit there and wait. But you can, but if you had like a castle over here and you wanted to build it, you could do so. And then as long as you paid the necessary amount of all the different resources that you need to build it, you can see they're all listed down there. Workers, wood, stone, metal, and then you'd be able to place that onto your board like so. Once it's erected, you return all the stuff that all the workers get used up, like you've paid their wages and they go back. You don't get to keep your workers, and obviously the stuff that you use to create them, all the wood and the stone and so forth goes back as well. Sometimes you'll have some tiles that have restrictions as to where you can build them. Like here, this grove, as you can probably guess, this has to be built in your forest area. You can't build it, in the mountains. But you should just keep that in mind. All right. So after everybody's done, now you're going to do the adventuring phase. So the adventuring phase is where the people show up and try to smash and destroy what you have. And this works pretty simply. So what happens is the 2 adventuremen will choose targets separately, and the adventurers against their targeted tile. It is completely possible that both of the different groups will adventure against the same tile. It could happen but it's not likely. But it could very well happen. This first party will always adventure first. The second party will adventure last. And then don't determine this party's target until this one is done, because if they successfully destroy the target they would have attacked, it's not going to be available for them. But it's pretty simple how it works. So I'm just because this one's closer, I will grab this druid. I just want to show you the different things that you have here. So you're going to have each one of the adventurers is going to have this like a die up here, and then so you can see it's a D8. So when this druid attacks, you're going to roll a D8 to determine their damage that they're going to do. And then they're going to have 2 icons down here. The leftmost icon is what they first want to attack, their target, and then if you can find something that matches up with that, then you'll go with the target on the right. Now I'm going to kind of set this up a little bit so this works here. But let's just say I built this temple, and not only did I build this temple, but I made it a temple of evil, and I placed this corrupted temple, and it is in my mountain range. And also, this most recent turn, I was able to hire this evil specter that resides in that corrupted temple. This sounds like a great Dungeons and Dragons adventure already. So he's going to add his 10 defense to the 9 defense that my corrupted temple has. So, and then what we're going to do is we're going to look at this druid. And normally he wants to attack magic. He wants to seek out some sort of building that is a magic type building, and that's going to be his target. But for the sake of an argument, we're going to say nobody at the table has any magic target. Or let's say somebody does have a magic building, but it isn't evil yet. Because the thing is, they want to attack the evil ones first. They will go to a good location, but that's called a pilgrimage, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. But so, for the sake of this argument, what we're saying is that he wants to have an evil one, and there isn't an evil magic place for him to go to. So the second thing you're going to look at is and he's going to go after one in the mountains. And so what happens then is that you're going to look, and the big thing that you have here is the number. And in this case, like this corrupted temple has a number 192. Now, probably wasn't going to happen. That's a pretty high number. They're going to go after the lower numbers first. But let's just say that's the only one. Let me just look at a different thing. So like if somebody had this tomb with this 180 and it was in a mountain spot, he would go after this tomb instead because it would have a lower number, and that's the one he would want to target. But let's just, for example, he's going to go after that particular location. So what we're going to do, and it is quite possible, I should mention, that there just won't be a match. And if there isn't a match, then the adventure party just doesn't go out and they don't do anything. So let's just, for example, we're going to go do this attack. So let's go. We have a druid that does a d8. Let me just grab all 4 so you can kind of see. So we have a druid that does a d8, a ranger that does a d8, a fighter that does a d8, and a sorceress that does a d12. Ooh, d12. I don't like that at all. But you can see like some of these, like they're not necessarily always going to be on different locations. Sometimes they'll be like you'll notice this is for like this is like a location as far as like the woods. The ranger will go after the woods first before he would go after a nature building. So it isn't always necessarily going to be like the type of building first. Some of these adventurers will want to attack the monster. The monster is going to be the one that they're going to be interested in first. So it really depends upon what shows up over there, and also, like I said, it's the planning part of it. A good example, like this fighter here has this symbol down here. He will go after whatever produces the most evil. That's what that icon means. So he wants to attack like even building, monster, whatever's creating the most evil. That's what he wants to destroy. This over here is the monster icon. So like first he would go after whoever's creating the most evil, and then he would go after a monster. So you can see there's like different options. But anyway, so what you're going to end up doing here is I have a total defense of 19, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to get a roll that's higher than that so they can destroy it. And so I have 3d8 plus a d12. So let's say I get for the d12 first. 7. That's not bad. I mean, it's about average here. So let's see if I can get lucky here. 2 of these. 12. Oh man, I just don't get no 8. No 8. 1. Woo! So they would have failed. They would have attacked my evil temple with the specter guarding it, and they would have failed. And in this case, what happens then is the druid is killed. He is killed in his attempt to destroy my place. This card is removed from the game. It doesn't go into the discard pile. And then these 3 would slide forward like this, and next round the ranger will lead the party. Plus, because my place was so evil, it killed an adventurer, I'm victorious, and I get 3 skulls as a reward because I'm so evil and I've become more evil. Now, if he had succeeded, he would have destroyed it, and I would have been sad because I would have, lost my cool specter and stuff. But that's how that works. It's pretty straightforward. I think it's more fun. You're supposed to roll the dice yourself, but I think it's more fun having the other players roll the dice, especially if you're playing with several players. Have each of them roll a die and just add up the scores. It kind of adds a little bit to it. All right. So the other thing, as I said, was a pilgrimage. If it turns out that there isn't anything evil for them to attack, they will go to a light place, and they'll go to the pilgrimage, and whoever owns it will get a coin. So it's just kind of like, oh, isn't this beautiful? Here's a coin. And I'm glad it isn't a lot, with it only being a coin. It's because of the fact that if it was more, then people would try to play the good guy, and there'd be a weird dichotomy there. So it's kind of nice that it's just a coin, and then you retire the lead adventurer. The idea is that was his quest, to go to that location to fulfill their destiny, and then they retire, and then you do the same thing. You swipe everybody down. All right, so after all that is done, you're going to go into the production phase, and during the production phase, what you'll do is every single thing that you have that produces something, like these villages, castles, this evil specter, everything in your domain that can produce things, anything that triggers during the production phase. Remember this henchman over here will give you 3 coins. You're just going to collect all your production and place that next to your game board. And then you're going to go to the end of turn. So during the end of turn, it's pretty straightforward. You're going to take the 2 fortune cards. You're going to discard them. You're going to go to the city places, and first of all, any henchmen that are still in the inn, you discard them, and you actually then replace them with the 2 that are in the far off lands. They've traveled, they've made it, and they're going to take their spot. Then you're going to draw 2 more henchmen and place them face down in this location over here. Now, over here, with the different buildings, and you can move them down if you want, it doesn't really matter. You have a bag that has all of the tiles of the cards of the different buildings in it. You're going to remove these and you're going to place these down. The reason they're in a bag is because obviously you can see there's no way you could stack these without people knowing what they were. So, and also, so it has to be kind of random. So you take these and you will place them into the different locations like so, and so people have every set of those. Over here, any monsters taken, you're going to go ahead and place a new monster in that place. Ooh, look, we got a dragon. Sweet. So you're going to go ahead and place your new monsters so you can fill up those spots as well. After you've done all that, then you're set up, and you just start over the next turn by drawing 2 new fortune cards. Let's just see what we get here. I'm not going to go through another turn, but let's just see what we get with our 2 new fortune cards. Let's see if we match up. Oh, actually, this is kind of good. So this is an Arcana card. So it just says all building cards require 1 fewer workers to build this turn. So it just is an act automatically. And because this is being paired with an Arcana card, you automatically do the top. So all players in turn order draw 1 building off the top of the building deck. So it's just, kind of a cool random thing. Now, I'm just going to actually dig deep here and find the death card. So you have the death card. This is the last turn. The game will end at the completion of this turn. If there's another card showing, ignore that card and place it in the discard pile. Any buildings completed during this turn's form and phase may be built light or dark side up. So the death card basically nullifies the other fortune card that you draw, and then you're just going to do that one last turn. At the end of the game, whoever has the most evil skull tokens will have, as I said, drawn the eye of the necromancer and can claim victory in dark domains. This is a deliciously evil, wonderful medium heavyweight worker placement type game. I mean, it could have been about anything, I guess, technically. I mean, with enough spit and polish. But the theme of this really makes this game a lot of fun, just because of the narrative and because of the story that it's telling. But I'll talk more about that in my final thoughts. Alright, so that was Dark Domains. I hope you have a good idea of how that game is played. There's been lots of games out there where you've played as the evil person, right? I mean, there's like games like Cthulhu Wars, where you are, like the dark old ones trying to destroy the world. There's games out there which, like I think like the very first one, I mean, it wasn't even really a board game. Well, I mean, I'm sure there might have been before, but I mean, I think like the one that kind of put the whole idea of being the bad guy on the map was that old computer game called Dungeon Keeper, and I played that. I loved that game. That was awesome. So I do like this theme. I like the idea of, wait a minute, Wizardry, old computer, like Wizardry 3 or Wizardry 4 was the Revenge of Weirdna, which was like the evil spellcaster that you'd killed, maybe or maybe not, in the first Wizardry. But anyway, regardless, I like that. It's a nice little spin. You get to be the bad guy. You get to flex your evil muscles, if you will. Everybody who's played D&D at one time or another has run an evil campaign where the players themselves weren't the lawful good, honorable paladins and wizards doing battle with evil. It was more of like how can I be kind of an evil, traitorous, horrible human being. And I don't know what it is, whatever it is. It's like why in professional wrestling do we like the bad guys more? But anyway, doesn't matter much. What do I think of Dark Domains? It's really, really good. I mean, it's exactly what I want out of a game. It could have, there's a lot of things that it added that you probably didn't. If it didn't have, it wouldn't be as much fun. I mean, I like the whole path of the activation of the spots that's been used in other games as well, but here it works really well, and plus visually it works really well. So like you can actually see where other people's minions are and what they're going to be doing, and and you can kind of see and kind of plan what other people are going to be doing, and kind of react to that in such a way. Plus, there's a lot of times when like what somebody chooses before what you choose will actually give you a little bit of insight into like a path that you should take, or you should perhaps plan on exploiting because of what somebody else has done. Things to pay attention to. I really like the fact that like just have lots of spells, and a lot of the spells are very, very much messing with other people. If you've watched my channel, I greatly enjoy the interaction between players. I want to be able to interact with you. I want to be able to affect your plans. I want you to be able to affect mine. I want to have to have that wild card out there that I have to plan for if I'm going to be able to succeed. There's nothing I dislike more than seeing somebody putting together this perfect little engine of victory points, and there's like literally nothing I can do other than trying to make an even better engine for victory points that's better than theirs. We've all played those games where like there's the one person who just grokks the game better than anybody else at that level, and they're just churning out the points, and you just realize you're not going to win. All you can do at this point is just go through the motions and get the game done. I love the fact that it's just like, oh, really? You have this cool little evil temple there that's just spitting out evil skulls every turn for you? Well, yeah, we're going to mess with that. I'm going to make sure that this particular hero is going to target that particular spot, and I am going to make darn sure that I'm going to banish the monster that you have protecting it, so it's going to get destroyed this turn, and you're not going to get those little skulls ka-chung, 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 getting spit out every single turn. That's stuff that I like, and it just makes me feel like I'm more power, more control over the game that I'm playing, and I think that's a huge bonus in these types of games. I mean, beyond that, I mean, like I said, the narrative, the story that it tells, each of us kind of like moving along, slowly and then slowly corrupting our world and making it more and more evil. It makes for a good story. It makes for a good feel to it. Each of those, I love the fact that like the little minions that you hire, not the minions, the worker placement guys, but the henchmen that you hire, like they have names and they kind of have stories. It's like, oh, this guy's like a corrupt merchant and he's just like, levying taxes and things like that, and just skimming money off the top, and like just stuff like that, where it's just like you can kind of feel this like kind of evil, seedy world that you're possessing, and it just makes the game kind of come alive, and it's a lot of fun. I mentioned, my playthrough, like that whole idea of like, here's this temple in the mountains, and now I've corrupted it, and now there's this specter. It's like that kind of tells a whole story that you can roll around in your head, and it's just like, oh, well, when you corrupted it, there was like the one holdout priest that like was holding fast, but in the end, like you captured him, tortured him, and tormented him to the point that now when he died, you've enslaved him, and his rotting spectral corpse defends that land, much to his horrible chagrin. Just fun stuff. So if you're looking for a super cool thematic worker placement game that's going to have some teeth to it and definitely is going to keep you on your toes when you're playing the other players, I strongly suggest you check out Dark Domains. I think you're going to really, really like it. Alright, so if you have any questions about this, go ahead and ask away. I'll be happy to answer those as best as I can. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. Remember, be positive, be the person other people want to spend time with, and remove the hate, remove the anger, remove the toxicity from your life, and just be a better, happier, and the best you can possibly be. Alright, until next time, I'm the Undead Viking. I'm telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day.